This video is going to be on shorting options, specifically short calls and short puts. We're also going to look at the risk profile for the option seller. So shorting options is a very important concept to understand because this is what's going to give you a lot of flexibility when you're setting up your trades in the stock market. It's going to give you new ways to make money. It's going to introduce you to new trading styles and even new types of trades that you can't do with just buying options. So this is going to make you a much more nimble and well-rounded options trader. So let's take a look at how the short position works. Just as you can buy options, you can also sell them. When you sell an option, you have what's called a short position. Remember, when you're buying options, you have a long position. When you sell an options contract, what you're doing is you are selling the buyer the choice in the future to make you buy or sell shares at the strike price. When you sell a call, you have the obligation to sell the stock at the strike price. And when you short a put, you have the obligation to buy the stock at the strike price. You have the obligation because if the buyer chooses to exercise his right, then you, as the option seller, must fulfill that execution. So let's take a look at an example. Let's say Facebook is trading at 240. For whatever reason, you don't believe that Facebook will continue to go up. So you decide to sell a call option. The strike is 250, the expiration date is 60 days away, and the premium is $4. Here's what happens. When the option is sold, $400 is immediately credited into your brokerage account and the position is opened. What you are saying is, I do not believe the stock price of Facebook will pass 250 by the expiration date of this option. The goal is for the call option to fail and expire worthless so that you can keep the full $400. To close the short position, you need to buy it back, hopefully at a lower price. Because you have to remember, you're selling first. This is sell high, buy low. So you're selling at a higher price, waiting for the option to deteriorate in value, and then you're buying it back at a lower price. So the ultimate example would be for the option to expire out of the money. It's worthless. Its value is zero. So you would immediately keep the entire 400. So the outcomes at expiration. If Facebook does not rise above the strike at 250 on the date of expiration, you keep the entire $400. However, if Facebook rises to 260 at the date of expiration, the call option buyer is then going to exercise his right to buy the stock at the strike price. Because you have the obligation, you are now forced to purchase 100 shares at 260 and then sell them at the 250 strike price to the option buyer. This incurs a loss of $10 a share, or a net loss of $600, because you're losing $1,000 on the shares, right? $10 a share times 100, but you collected $400 in premium, so the total net loss is $600. And we'll take a look at this on the risk profiles for a short option on Thinkorswim a little bit later in this video. So this is a table that summarizes all of the important points for the option seller. And the main takeaway is that when you short a call option, you want the stock to stay below the strike price. And you want the option to stay out of the money in order to keep the premium, right? Because that's the whole goal. You want it to fail. You want the option to expire worthless so that you can keep the entire amount of money that you sold it for. on the other side, if you're the buyer, you want the stock to rise above the strike price. You want the option to move in the money to make a profit. The money that the option buyer makes is the option seller's loss. And the other difference between the buyer and the seller is that the buyer pays the premium and the seller receives the premium. So now let's move on to the short put. Let's take a look at Apple. Let's say that it's trading at 380 and you do not believe that Apple will go down. So you decide to sell a put. The strike is 370. The expiration date is 60 days away, and the premium is $2.90. So what happens is when the option is sold, $290 is immediately credited into your brokerage account and the position is opened. What you are saying is that I do not believe the stock price of Apple will sink below 370 by the expiration date of this option. To close the short position, you need to buy it back, hopefully at a lower price, and the goal is for the put option to fail and expire worthless so that you can keep the full $290. At expiration, if the stock fails to sink below the strike price of 370 on the date of expiration, you keep the entire $290, right? Because the put has expired worthless. It's out of the money. It's worth zero. If Apple falls to 365 at the date of expiration, the put option buyer will then exercise his right to sell shares at the strike price. What happens is you will be forced to buy 100 shares at the strike price of 370 from the option buyer and then sell them at 365. So this incurs a loss of $5 a share, right? Because the put option is $5 in the money. So you lose $5 a share as the option seller. This will incur a $500 loss on the shares, but you collected $290 in premium, or the loss is $210. Now, I also have a table here that summarizes the differences between the option buyer and the option seller. If you're the option buyer, if you're a put option buyer, you believe the stock will move below the strike price and you want the option to move in the money so that you can make a profit. The option seller, on the other hand, believes that the stock will stay above the strike price and you want the option to fail. You want it to stay out of the money in order to keep the premium because you as a seller want it to expire worthless. The option buyer pays the premium and the option seller receives the premium. Those are the important points. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Thinkorswim and I'm going to show you the risk graphs for the option seller because it's very important to know what they are before you short an option.